The Renault Megane has been a part of our tests plenty of times. GT, Estate, Diesel, RS, Automatic and Manual, and now it's time for a selection of new engines.
Renault has been putting their new 1.3 liter petrol engines in various models. We've tested the 160 horsepower one in the Renault Captur, the 130 in the Dacia Duster, and now that same engine, 130, has come to the Renault Megane as well. And look at this! I don't have to, hold the hood up or the bonnet.
A 4-cylinder turbocharged engine which uses modern tech, which means less CO2, lower consumption, as well as more power and torque. But like in every video, we'll take a quick look at the car first. This latest generation Megane is a looker, especially because of the LEDs at the front and rear. Generally, I think it looks great and does a good job combining interesting shapes and sportiness. The interior of this GT line equipped car is pretty dark. Thankfully, that's broken up a bit by lighter tones on the seats and the ambient lighting.
Since I've already done a test of the Megane quite a few times, we're going to mainly focus on this engine. And because, obviously, we are a very professional team, I'm going to use a professional phrase. Let's test this car, see how it drives. So before we go on, let me just correct myself. This is not a 130 horsepower engine. This has 140 horsepower. I was given slightly erroneous information, it seems, because I thought it was the same engine as in the Dacia Duster with 130 horsepower. But anyway, 10 horsepower more. It's still the 1.3 liter engine, so that's nice. So let me just very quickly go over the basics, because I've tested plenty of Meganes by now in all of the versions, the Estate, the hatchback, and so on and so forth. So outside is 37 degrees Celsius, perfect. Climate control, AC is on full blast, good. Okay, we're all set. So anyway, I've got a big infotainment screen here. This is the GT line, by the way. You've probably seen that. It has a big infotainment screen, which now is quite a few years old. It's good, but it can be a little bit annoying to use, especially the climate control buttons, because while the temperature controls are on the physical buttons, if you want to change your fan speed or AC, you have to actually press down here, like a sliver of information where you have to hit it to open up the climate control menu, and then you have to set it. And of course, because everything is touch, especially today while I was going back home in quite heavy traffic and it was very hot, so I wanted AC on quickly, it was a little bit annoying because I had to keep looking at the screen instead of the road. So yeah, but anyway, the new infotainment system is, I believe, coming very soon from Renault, so that's going to be exciting. Otherwise, I've got a single digital instrument in the middle, and I've got two analog instruments, one on the left, one on the right, for temperature and for fuel. So the digital one is nice. We've also known it for a few years now. It can be customized a little bit as far as the visuals go, but you know, generally it shows you your speed, your tachometer, and so on. So the seats, well, they are very, very supportive, both down here for my legs and for my midriff here. They're very supportive, so you can have some fun in the corners and you're not going to be thrown out of your seats, not a chance. And I also really like how they look, because they've got this interesting not leather, textile texture, and on the sides you've got something like a, I don't know, like a velour, something a bit like that, and then some quasi leather or pleather here, and it really works quite well, I would say. Oh, gotta shift up. But it's got one major drawback, and to understand what I mean, you'll have to actually see it for yourself in real life. Because of this texture and this velour type material, it really loves to attract all kinds of hairs and dog hairs and dust and everything else. So after a while, I think it would be quite a nightmare to clean, because just imagine one of your pieces of clothes that is just a nightmare to clean because it clings to all of the dust particles. That's how this is. So enough blah 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 all the time. I'm going to talk about the engine, like I promised right at the beginning, because the most important thing with this car is the engine, of course. So the 1.3 liter 4-cylinder, it's not a 3-cylinder, thankfully, 4-cylinder engine with 140 horsepower. And the first thing I want to mention is that it is very pleasant. What I mean by that? Well, it's very quiet, quite refined. And we're so used to diesel engines these days, and they're nice. And in the last 10-15 years, you know, they have gotten a lot quieter, a lot more civilized, but there's still a difference between a diesel and a petrol engine. And when you sit into a car with a petrol engine like this, you do notice it, especially if you're like this, 4th gear, 53 kilometers per hour right now. It's very quiet. It's almost inaudible. And if you're driving 90 kilometers, for example, in 6th as well, it's very civilized. So what about fuel consumption? Well, you've got this 140 horsepower version and also the 160 horsepower version, for example, which I tested in the Renault Captur, and that was a lot of fun. But the problem is that was a bit thirsty. Probably because usually with the more powerful engines, it's a case of, ooh, I wanna have more power, more throttle. I wanna go faster, and then inevitably you end up using even more fuel because of it. And with this one, I think it's a good combination of power and economy. So it's not that horribly powerful, but it's also not horribly thirsty. Right now I've got an average of 6.7 liters per 100 kilometers, which is already dropping, by the way. And I want to say that while that is not a very good average consumption, this was not economical driving. Let me just say that. It was a lot of stop and go traffic through some traffic jams, and I was also pushing it a little bit on the freeway or the motorway, so definitely not the most economical drive you could be doing. I think realistically, if you were careful, you could get it to around 6.0 liters per 100 kilometers. I think that's quite a realistic number. So I've heard from Renault that they're a little bit concerned about the customers thinking that 1.3 liters is just not enough, especially for a car like the Megane, for example, because it's not the tiniest of cars. It's not a Twingo, for example. So I understand that it's difficult to know whether 1.3 would be enough or not, especially if you don't drive cars on a regular basis like this, different cars. But let me demonstrate. We're going 50 kilometers per hour, 2200 full speed. I mean, full throttle. There's a bit of turbo lag, 70, 80, 90. So you can very quickly get over the speed limit with this engine. Yes, there is a little bit of turbo lag. It is a little bit noticeable, especially when you want instant power and it's just not there because the turbo has to spool up, and it's a small engine with a big turbo. But once you get going, really, and if you think ahead a little bit with your gear shifting, which in a manual is a little bit easier than in an automatic, for example, unless you have paddle shifters, it's fine. It's completely fine. And you're not going to lack power. You're not going to want more power, really. Yes, more power is always fun, but for everyday driving, I mean, this is plenty. Okay, so now we're making our way onto the very busy motorway. Let's put it into third, full throttle, 80, 90, 100, 110, 20, 130 in third, and put it into sixth for economy. The consumption did fall to 6.5 liters though, so it is falling constantly when I'm driving more economically. So 1.3 liters, not enough? I don't think so. Plenty of power. Now that we are on the motorway though, I do have to rant a little bit, especially in the summer when there's so many foreign plates on the road. I don't know why, but for some reason the Austrians and the Germans, who come from bigger, more packed countries, packed with traffic, look, they're constantly driving on the left. Warum? Nein! This is not the United Kingdom. Nicht links, rechts, rechts fahren. Look at this person is now braking in the left lane, and I'm going to be undertaking him. Okay, correction, he's from Hungary, but still, I don't understand it. Why is this a thing? And so you end up with the right lane, which is full of cars and especially trucks going 80 to 90 kilometers per hour, and then people like this that park themselves in the passing lane in the left doing 80 to 90 kilometers per hour. Ah!
The base Megane with the 1.3 engine starts at just over 19,000 euros with the Intense package. For a fully equipped car with the same engine, you'll be paying 27,500 euros.